Lockdown citizens of planet Earth inadvertently experiencing cultural and social rebirth. Look at us, we're all locked up doing our time behind the various doors. In my case, relatively pleasant doors. In some people's cases, not so pleasant. But what I want to talk to you about today is addiction and recovery in a corona lockdown crisis. Before we get into that, whether it's a gambling addiction, food addiction, sex addiction, drug addiction, booze addiction, pet addiction, my floor is strewn with dogs. You notice your pets are a total pain in the arse, aren't they? Your pets, your kids, the people you've chosen to live your life with, what a pain in the arse. Before we get into this addiction thing, this Monday, the 30th, I'm going to do a YouTube live stream. Just before it, I'll be on Instagram doing a little live stream. I'm going to do it at 8 p.m. GMT. That's Greenwich Mean Time. That means British people type time. It'll be 1 o'clock in the afternoon in Los Angeles, 4 o'clock in the afternoon in New York City, 7 a.m. in Sydney and Melbourne, 9 a.m. in Auckland. Okay, so 8 for the English, and you heard them other times, didn't you? Now, that's all the same time. It's just that's the way the world works. So if you've seen it, it's, the whole thing's to do with astronomy. Oh man, how am I coping with my addiction? I'm doing a lot of them online support group meetings that various 12-step groups have. And I'll tell you, this is the longest I've spent without being around other drug addicts, other alcoholics. And it's an interesting time. I've read a few things about online gambling concerns, addiction and relapse concerns. The information there is down in the description box. You can look at it right now. I have to remind the person I work with to do their job, because that's what happens as well. Like work addiction, look at that now. That's kicked in all nicely. I've got all the other ones out of the way. This is what I suppose we have to learn. That the whole point of tackling addiction, you may not know this yet because you might be at the beginning of your recovery. And in fact, even if you're not an addict and you're experiencing this sort of cultural lockdown, you might be thinking, how am I going to cope with this? What am I going to do in these new situations? Well, what the 12-step philosophy believes is you're being invited to go on a spiritual journey right now. What's meant by a spiritual journey? Recognizing that the inner world is more real than the outer world, that kindness and compassion, notions and concepts that iterate the idea of oneness. Why kindness? Oh, because the person outside you is the same as you. Why love? Because we're all connected to one another. The spiritual principles, I reckon, when you analyse them, are often indicators that oneness is the truth. Now, I don't mean that there is one universal law and white people have access to it, or conservative people or left-wing people. That's not the kind of oneness I'm talking about. That in spite of all the various permutations that we experience in this field, we are emanating from a single place. You'll notice that that is analogous to, a pretty basic principle in physics, a bloody complicated principle, the Big Bang. It's just basic the way I understand it. I literally think it's that's about as far as I can get with stuff like that, but it means a point of oneness encompassed everything, all of the energy, all of the matter, all of the dark matter, antimatter, things that can't be recorded. Now, how this applies to your recovery is if you're trying to resolve your problems right now by eating food, and it's easy to do that, isn't it? We've got time on our hands and I'm wearing things with elasticated waistbands. I'm not feeling the pinch, not feeling the pressure. You're going to feel worse about yourself. If you're drinking to deal with it, you're going to feel worse about yourself. If you're already in recovery and you're tempted to drink or get into the food or the porn or the sex, all those things, my God, this stuff could get out of control, particularly as we're all on our phones all the time. I'm talking with particular regard to the online gambling and the porn. We're bad enough with our phones at the best of times, aren't we? Now, that thing's glued to my palm. I'm never off this little device. I've tagged myself. Now, it might as well be on my ankle, for God's sake. I could be monitored at all times. I'm not doing a good enough job of my recovery at the moment. I'm not doing enough of those online support groups. I'm not reaching out to other people with the same condition as me enough. I'm doing it a bit, but I'm experiencing some weird stuff, like all of you. The solitude, the reflection, the particular details of my case, like that my cat, who I've had a long time, who reaches back to the early part of my recovery, is living out his final days, and it's brought out a sort of somber, raw pain in me that I didn't think was there no more. I thought that you could tackle that with spirituality. Part of it, if I'm honest, my drive to live the spiritual life is to be free from pain, same way as my drive to sleep around a lot or do a lot of heroin or smoke a lot of drugs. Be free from pain, escape. When people are online gambling, an addiction that I've not had, my understanding is it's for the vacillation of sensation, the disappointment, the excitement, the plunging despair, all ways of manufacturing chemicals or taking drugs, in a sense, that are made within you. We can make the narcotics in our own body. And in a sense, I would say ordinary society is a kind of crucible for creating the conditions of addiction. Look at the opioid crisis, look at the mental health crisis, look around the people that you know. One of the things that's very positive, I think, about our new circumstances, I was talking to my mate Sharon, she was saying, like, on all the FaceTime or, you know, house party or Zoom groups that she's hanging out on with her mates, people are talking about normal stuff. How long's your baby nap for? What do you have for dinner? More normal conversations than we're used to. If you think about it, we devote our lives to the abstract in many cases, unless your job is directly helping people. And has there ever been a time when we've appreciated the care services and the service industries more? If you're working in, you know, finance or entertainment like me, like, a lot of things you're doing are essentially economically driven, and economics is conceptual. Of course, I understand it has sort of a primal root, i.e. you need food, you need shelter, but much of it becomes conceptual. And the 12-step principles that I apply to my recovery are a way of awakening, of getting out of the dead-minded devotion to the pursuit of the material and the conceptual, and returning to the moment. This is how the 12 steps would apply in a lockdown situation. And remember, even this should be done in conjunction with reaching out to other people, some people that have got more experience with you than with the addiction or problem that you're tackling, and reaching out to help people with less time. I've not done enough helping people, I think. It's very easy to get self-obsessed, isn't it? Particularly if you know, like me, have a bit of a tendency in that direction. So here's how the 12 steps work in this situation. 1, you admit that you've got a problem. Yeah, we've got a problem. We've got a global coronavirus pandemic. 2, we recognise that there is hope. We focus on some of the positive things that have happened, moments of national unity, moments of beauty and joy, and the fact that, you know, the things we can be optimistic about. It doesn't kill everyone that gets it. It doesn't, young children aren't getting it. You know, like, we focus on the positives. We find hope. We recognise that it's possible for there to be a post-coronavirus time. The 3rd step is we recognise that of ourself, of our own devices, using our own methods, we can't solve it. It's going to necessarily be collaborative. Has there ever been a time where we've handed over power more willingly? I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't be on lockdown. All the scientific evidence says that is exactly what should be happening. But democracy, man, where's the old democracy? I wonder how valid these principles are if they can't robustly withstand real crisis or, you know, sort of real truth. And I wonder too how much of what we call democracy is essentially a sort of a brittle plastic framework that holds up systems of economic dominance that don't benefit the majority of people. Again, I remind you of that thing. How many times have you said conversationally, it's a bit weird, isn't it, that bankers or actors or whatever earn this much and nurses and teachers earn this much? Yeah, that is weird. Right, let's carry on. You can change that, you know. You can say, right, first thing you could let go of is the idea of a nation, because a nation is a hard thing to control and a hard thing to change. But you could say, in this community, I'm a member of this community. This is how we live. This is what we value. This is the systems we want to live by. We're opting out. I remember, you know, like where I grew up in Essex, there was a lot of traveller communities, and I got inculcated, indoctrinated, educated into thinking negatively of them travellers. Like, people go, oh, them travellers. They used racist words we now know to describe them. And it was only later I realised, hold on a minute, they're just saying we don't want to live by this system. We're going to live this way. There's no right way to live. Well, you should be paying your taxes. That's the sort of thing people say. They don't pay their taxes. Well, I don't want to pay my tax. No one wants to pay taxes, do they? Oh yeah, there's the NHS. We all love the NHS. We all love schools. But do we all love foreign wars? Do we all love the expense scandals? Do we all love feeling that we're participating in systems of domination that don't actually benefit us? No one does. Whether you're a libertarian, a communist, an anarchist, a conservative, or just a regular old liberal, you know deep down in your heart of hearts that the vast majority of your taxes are not being distributed in ways that are commensurate with your world philosophy. That's just a fact. So that's the third step. You hand over a lot of power. 1, there's a problem. 2, things can change. 3, you need to get help from the outside. 4, inventorying, getting a good perspective of reality. 5, share with another person. That's where the reaching out is going to be necessary. Even talking to you now, I realise I've got to do a lot more reaching out to people, talking to people in recovery that have got more time than me, talking to people in recovery that have got less time than me, doing them online support groups and not just ducking out, leafing through. If you've done any of them yet, just leafing through, looking at people, this is mad, look at this, everyone's in their houses, this is mental, bloody hell. Listening a bit and then thinking, I just wander around, maybe go make yourself a sandwich or whatever. I think, I don't need to wear clothes during this. Put yourself on mute is what I will say. No, you can do that centrally now. The person who's running the group can put them on mute these days. Anyway, so I should be doing more of that. There's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of this stuff. It's all available. You can learn that stuff easily. I'm just saying if you are an addict, and you are an addict because everyone's on the scale, because we live in a capitalist consumer culture, and capitalist consumerism demands that we have attachments to external objects, otherwise you wouldn't buy nothing. If you're spiritually evolved, if you spend your whole time listening to Thich Nhat Hanh, link in the description for his meditation, like if you spend all your time meditating, blissed out, and you recognize that your life is really a life of service, that the pursuit of your own happiness is always going to be secondary, that when you return to that point of self-obsession, which you naturally will if you're anything like me, because we always do, we have that in us. We do have competitive drives. We do have survival evolved processes that are very difficult to articulate and navigate in the kind of spaces that we find ourselves in now. What I'm saying is we are not living in the conditions for which we are evolved for. Tribal creatures living in harmony with our environment. That's not some hippy-dippy bullshit. I'm talking about how monkeys live, how evolved and advanced a hominid species live. How Stone Age tribes discovered by anthropologists, encountered by anthropologists live. Harmony with the seasons, harmony with the food, harmony with the animals. I'm not a Luddite. I'm not like, let's take this camera and smash it. Let's take this phone and yaz it out the window, waz it out the window, chuck it out the window, luzz it out the window. Oh, those are the days. God, I miss Essex. God, I miss my childhood. Watching this cat facing mortality, it's like a tunnel back through time to then, back to 16 years ago, living in a one-room flat, barely off of benefits, barely off of drugs. Weird. So the witness of so much, the present throughout so much. Watching all that go, recognizing I'm not that person no more, not a drug addict, not a single person, not a married person, not a person swirling and lost in the senselessness of celebrity. And actually as well, just more bloody basically, I really love that cat. It's a gutter. So if you are in recovery, and you should be, even if you don't think that you are, I suppose a key principle is awareness. What are you doing in your life to make yourself feel better? Are you eating food to feel better? Are you getting in stupid arguments with people you live with just because you're a bit bored? Are you looking for ways to dominate people? Eating dumb stuff, porn, looking too much at social media? I don't mean this stuff. This is clearly nutritional, beneficial stuff. That's the wisest use of social media. I mean, I can't think of a better use other than Joe Wicks. I mean, you've got to love Joe Wicks. I love him. He's coming on Under the Skin. Listen to them podcasts, by the way. If you're not yet a subscriber to Luminary, if you can't afford it, then don't bother. I'm sorry about that. We'll give away as much free as we can. But if you can afford it, get on there. We've got some good stuff on Luminary. Good stuff. And remember, 8 o'clock UK, 1 o'clock LA, 4 p.m. NYC, and 7 a.m. Sydney, Melbourne, 9 a.m. Auckland. We've covered it all. we've covered basically everything. You should be able to work out where you are. But I'm in Stockholm. Just what? Look, I can't do every single conceivable place on the planet, can I? Anyway, it will say in the description where and when the thing will be on. Join us, where I'll be answering your questions and comments. Look at this. What's this comment? There's a really good one where someone really tried to break down anarcho-syndicalism and talked about the necessity of some centralised systems. And I thought, yeah, that is a good argument. But I've got a better one, and I'll address that on the internet. Hockey mask time. Will everything go back to normal? He's responding to one of the previous videos. No, he says, hockey mask time. Money is still the only true value in this shitty wasteland we all live in. I'm going to try and do that live stuff on YouTube, some stuff on Instagram. Keep watching the social media for information. If you've got any questions for us, if you've got anything that you want me to cover, stick it here and I'll cover it for you. I'll do my level best. We will be live, so you'll be able to comment live and communicate with me live. If you're so inclined, you can just you wake up. You can do that if you want. Get it out your system. I don't mind. I've got broad shoulders in a very literal way, as it turns out. So, yeah, if you are an addict, make sure that the corona lockdown is not an excuse to drop your recovery out. You still need to do as best approximately as what you would do under normal circumstances. And I say this to myself. Use the phone to check in with other people in recovery. Stay aware and stay conscious of what you're doing and how you're managing your moods. Remember that you have to help other people, Russell. Don't just think about yourself all the time. And what's the other thing? Pray, meditate. In the YouTube thing on Monday, I'm going to do some proper, I'm going to show you some Kundalini techniques and some breath techniques, which, look, I'll level with you. I'm not a Kundalini teacher or a breath. Like, I've got these things that Wim Hof taught me, and this other dude, Alan Dolan, taught me. I won't be able to do that. That one's too hard. But I will do this Kundalini exercise that I learned in the yoga class a couple of months ago that takes me to the second consciousness. Because this is the thing we need to be reminded of. Some of you will be into the psychedelics and stuff, huh? To be reminded that what we see, what we think, who we believe ourselves to be is secondary. This is why the 12-step journey is an important one, why recovery is an important journey, because we recover the person we were intended to be, and through certain breath technologies, a second consciousness can be discovered. Present within you, always, is another consciousness. I've been there. I've been there. Not today. I didn't have time to do it today. I did a run. Oh, God, I did a long run. Only 2 kilometres from home. Now, that's Ireland. You can go as far as you want, can't you, from here? Went on a long run. A person I run with is younger than me and didn't take loads of crack. So they've got better lungs. And apparently I don't take long enough strides. Apparently I take mouse strides. Chop sticking away at the ground. I'm basically jogging on the spot out there. I've got these great big daft pins. What's wrong with me? Anyway, what am I banging on about? Look after yourself and go on a spiritual journey. I'm sorry for all of the suffering and that, but we've got to go on a spiritual journey. We've got no choice, particularly those of us that know we're mentally ill and addicts. All right, I'm going to be running you'll see me out there in the community. You'll see me in the virtual world, looming and zooming. Take it easy.